The BYU Cougars break the rim in their 22-point comeback win against Clemson in the Game 1 of the Jimmy V Classic. Wow, what a game. I saw an ESPN notification that they were having a game at all, and I'm like, hey, it's still fairly early on in the season. I don't know if I really am into basketball right now. But then I saw that the Clemson Tigers had gone on a 21-0 run at the end of the first half to put them up by 21 points. And I'm like, oh, man. That's interesting. And then the Cougars started coming back. And they broke the rim on Kata dunk. And that was wild to see that. And then I started watching the game after it was delayed because they had to fix the rim. But once that was fixed, I started watching and stuff, and they started narrowing down the lead again and again and again. And then they were 4 points up. And dinner was ready. And so I stopped watching the game. But once we got done with dinner, I'm just like, hey, can I was chatting with my wife, can I see if the game is still on and watch it and stuff? And we pull up ESPN on our TV, and there was still 1 second left in the game, and it was tied 64-64. And so I turn on the game, I'm like, okay, cool, we're going to go to overtime. Dribble, shot, 3 points, BYU wins it at the buzzer, 67-64. And I went ecstatic. I was so happy that we happened to be able to log in to put the game on at the game-winning shot. That was amazing. That was the highlight of my day. And man, there we are. I'm missing my hat today because I left it at the hotel. Luckily, my brother was still there. So I went to Arlington this weekend to see BYU get absolutely destroyed by Texas Tech for the second time this year. That was a bit humiliating. But I already hashed that out in my last video. You can watch it on my channel. And as we're getting ready to go, it's 3 o'clock in the morning because our flight leaves at 5 o'clock in the morning. And I'm grabbing everything to go, and I'm just going, making sure we're out the door with enough time to get to the airport. And we get to the airport, and I realize I don't have my hat. Our brother, my brother lives in Texas right now. He's actually going to Texas Tech for medical school. Different campus. Anyways, I text him, and I had left my hat at the hotel. And he's going to bring it to me. So there's that. It's a small, funny anecdote that I hope you enjoyed. But yeah, I have no BYU gear on today, and I feel sad about that. But I wanted to make a video talking about that excellent basketball game that I saw today. Largest deficit overcome in BYU program history. Excellent game 1 of the Jimmy V Classic. Wow, that was excellent. And then my wife was going to swap it over, but the speech came on, and it was Jimmy V talking at the ESPYs. I'm pretty sure it was ESPYs. It was very, very famous speech. First time I'd ever seen it, though. And that was an excellent speech. Any sports fan should watch this speech, Jimmy V at the ESPYs. That was excellent. That was an excellent, wonderful speech. And then there's some stats that came on throughout the speech as they were advertising the Jimmy V Foundation. By the way, Jimmy V Foundation has raised over almost $500 million over the course of my lifetime for cancer research. So the Jimmy V Classic's going on right now. Go to v.com/donate to donate for cancer research. That's v.com/donate. Excellent foundation, excellent man who founded this foundation. What a wonderful speech. Any sports fan should watch this speech. Excellent speech. Had all the tears jerking in exactly the right way. Tears falling in exactly the right way. And some of those stats that I mentioned were a little bit touching to me because Jimmy V was diagnosed with cancer in June of 1992. I came into this world in June of 1992, and then he would pass the next year. That's really hard. That's really hard. Once we get to the next live, he's a guy that I'd like to shake hands with. He seemed to be just full of energy and full of joy, and starting this foundation for cancer research. The disease took him, but almost $500 million of funds donated. Please go to v.com/donate. Not sponsors of this channel. I only have 8 subscribers, but just excellent foundation. Go to v.com/donate. And I'm going to try to speed run through this because I don't want this video to be too long. But we are going to talk about the college football rankings. And holy crap, so much drama. And lots of people are like, oh, they got it right. They got it right. I don't see how anyone could be arguing that. I don't see how anyone can be looking at these rankings and saying, oh, yes, this is exactly right, and how we got here is perfectly fine and legitimate. There's a few reasons I think that. But I'll go down the list. Indiana should be number 1, yeah, but you got to reward the conference championship winners. Keeping Texas Tech and Georgia where they were is kind of offensive. They absolutely dominated their conference championship games. They should have advanced a spot. Whoever lost the Big Ten championship should have been in the 4, unless it was a blowout win, in which case they possibly should drop to the 5. But just Ohio State should have been 4 because of the performance of the other 2 teams in their conference championship games. That was a very, very tight Big Ten championship game, very low scoring. I don't know how Ohio State only falls 1 spot other than they're Ohio State. And the fact that that is true is a thing that is wrong with the sport. But we're going to talk about a few different things. One of those things being Notre Dame. Notre Dame is so soft right now. Opting out of their bowl games, blaming the ACC for a social media campaign against them. So soft. So soft. And teams should not opt out of their bowl games. Players should not opt out of their bowl games. Players should not transfer because they didn't get into the playoffs or didn't get into the bowl game that they wanted. Going back a couple of years ago for Florida State University, they were absolutely screwed out of the playoffs. Everybody knows it. Everybody knows it. Oh, they had their quarterback get injured. Oh, I don't care. They should have been in the playoffs because they earned that spot. They won the ACC championship game and they went undefeated with their backup quarterback. And now Ole Miss has lost their head coach, lost Lane Kiffin, the guy that is why Ole Miss is who they are right now. And you push them up a spot? The same metrics are not being used week to week or year to year. We need a definable, tangible, objective way to determine who's who in the college football playoffs. The college football playoff system is absolutely broken right now. Even though that is true, 2/3 of the Florida State team transferring immediately because they didn't go to the playoffs, soft. Weak, soft. And Notre Dame opting out of their bowl game like a child picking up the ball and then going home so that nobody can play, soft. Absolutely soft. And opting out of the Pop-Tart Bowl, which they would have played against BYU, that's fine. We'll kill Texas Tech instead of killing you. That's fine. And I think that we absolutely would have killed Notre Dame. Absolutely it would have happened. But yeah. Notre Dame is no longer getting rewarded for being independent, and I think that is a good thing. I also think that the committee, putting them ahead of Miami every single week of these rankings only to put Miami in front is I don't know if it's corruption. I don't know if it's bad metrics. I don't know if it's just them making it up as they go along. Whatever it is, it's crap. It's absolutely crap. There needs to be a better way to determine who's who when. And it needs to be consistent all throughout the college football playoff ranking system. Miami should have always been in front of Notre Dame if they were going to pick Miami instead of Notre Dame. Notre Dame should not have been where they were in the first place. 0-2, and you're still ranked in the top 25. And then you slowly march your way back up. Because you're Notre Dame. No longer, hopefully, unless you get into the ACC. I don't think you'll join a conference. You should. You should. And all of these whiny, crybaby nonsense is so soft. Just soft. Very unbecoming of a national championship game participant 1 year ago. Very unbecoming of a program of that caliber. Got to talk about BYU. The fact that BYU wasn't even in this conversation is absurd. Absolutely absurd. Of the teams that are in front of BYU, 2 of them, I guess now 3 of them with Ohio State, 3 of them have better losses than BYU. There are 11 teams in front of BYU right now, and 3 of them, and only 3 of them, have better losses, including Texas Tech, by the way, and Georgia, by the way. To keep Alabama at 9 and drop BYU from 11 to 12 is absurd. It is absolutely absurd. You can put Miami in if you want. Put Miami at 9. Drop Alabama to 10. I have no problem with an SEC championship participant if they have fewer than 3 losses going into the game, participating in the playoffs still. I don't care that they're a 3-loss team right now. They shouldn't be weighted the same as a 3-loss team. We last video I made about this topic, I said that any conference champion participant should be weighted as if they have 1 fewer loss than they do. So with my system, Alabama would be weighted as if they're a regular 2-loss team right now, and I think that puts them at 10. They should be at 10 with the system that they had. But BYU, they should not have been at 11 at all. They should not have been at 11. They should have been at 7 or 8 going into the game. And then losing that game, they should have dropped to 9 or 10. We'll get to what I think the actual playoff ranking should be in a minute. But, yeah, absolutely ridiculous. And nothing is going to be fixed by opting out, which is why BYU is not opting out. To my knowledge, every single player of BYU is going to go to the Pop-Tart Bowl, and they're going to show up, and they're going to dominate Georgia Tech. Absolutely dominate them, just like they would have dominated Notre Dame. We'll never know, because Notre Dame quit like little cowards. But there's that. The metrics of this absolutely infuriate me. If you're going to drop BYU, you must drop Alabama. And if you're not going to drop Alabama, you cannot drop BYU. At least keep them at 11. If you're going to not drop Alabama, you cannot drop BYU. Alabama played just as bad as BYU did in their championship game. Just as bad. You cannot drop BYU if you're not going to drop Alabama. If you were to have dropped Alabama, they would have been in the 10 spot and still would have been in the playoffs. Oh, but you wouldn't have gotten Oklahoma and Alabama. Good. They already played this year. Have them play later in the playoffs. Don't start them off with a rematch. Don't get me wrong, I'm a little happy that 2 SEC teams are playing in the first round. That means that 1 fewer SEC team is guaranteed to go on to the next. But I think that it's pretty clear that there's not going to be an SEC team in the championship game this year. Maybe I'll be wrong, but I think we're going to have a 3rd consecutive year of no SEC teams in the championship game. And then the most egregious example of not using the same metrics is Alabama versus Utah. Utah won their last 2 games, and they were dropped 3 spots in those last 2 weeks. Alabama won a Power 4 conference game, and they were advanced a spot, even though in that game against non-bowl eligible Auburn, did horrible. Barely squeaked that game out of their butt, and they advance a ranking. That is an SEC bias or an Alabama bias. I don't care which it is a bias, and it is ridiculous, and it needs to stop. Hopefully, Oklahoma takes it to Alabama again, so we can demonstrate once and for all this team is not the program they used to be. They're not. But maybe we can prove that. The one and only time I'm going to be rooting for Oklahoma this whole season is against Alabama in the playoffs in the next couple of weeks. But Utah played better than Alabama did their last couple of weeks. And Utah dropped 3 spots, and Alabama advanced. Now, that's not entirely the whole story because Texas and Vanderbilt were right around them, and they played really well. But other teams around Alabama also played really well, and you kept them where they were. In fact, you dropped Notre Dame for destroying their opponent, and you dropped them. So there's a whole bunch of nasty metrics going into this, and a whole bunch of ridiculousness. We've gotten into that. Everybody knows that the entire system is flawed. We got to fix it. We've been saying it for 20 years, but it's got to be fixed. BCS system was awful. Got to get fixed. We get the 14 playoff program. Oh, but only the same teams are going in every year because of their freaking bias. I'm like, okay, let's go to 12 teams. Oh, now we have 2 group of 5 teams in the playoffs? I'm going to throw up. Get out of here with that elitist crap. Do I think Tulane and JMU are going to win either of these playoff games? No. I think both of them are going to lose. You set up these rules. You allowed for the chance for this to happen. I'm going to throw up. The 2 group of 5 teams are in. Get out of here with that elitist bull crap. Elitist bull crap. We'll see what happens in the playoffs. But we got to stop just turning down our noses at the group of 5s. They're part of the Division I too. We got to stop with that. Anyways, I'm going to wrap up this video by giving you what the college football playoff rankings should be, based on everyone's resumes, how they performed, and what was done. Number 1, Indiana, of course. Only undefeated team left in the country. Absolutely correct. Georgia, number 2. Only loss to Alabama, in which case they showed up to the SEC championship game and stomped Alabama. They should be number 2. Texas Tech lost to Arizona State with a backup quarterback and absolutely dominated the rest of the season, including in the Big 12 championship game, putting a stomp down on BYU. I am going to be rooting for Texas Tech the rest of the way. It's going to be kind of hard given how some of your fans treated me personally, but I think I can get over it because their coach is a good man, and these players are excellent. I think I'm going to be rooting for Texas Tech the rest of the way. Ohio State coming in at number 4. You lost your conference championship game. You need to suffer a penalty that's worse than just 1 spot. And we can't set up a possibility of Indiana and Ohio State playing for the national championship game again. That's silly. No. Ohio State, you should be at 4. Georgia and Texas Tech played good enough to advance a spot. You deserve to go to 4. You did not show up on offense in that game or defense because you lost. That was a really slow, low-scoring game. I don't understand how Ohio State's not 4. They should be 4. 5, Oregon, absolutely. Only loss to Indiana. One of the only teams in front of BYU to have a better loss than BYU, by the way. Texas A&M at number 6. I think you should be at 6. Number 7 is going to be a surprise for people. Oklahoma. I think Oklahoma should be above Ole Miss. Because if we're going to penalize Florida State University for losing their quarterback, we should be penalizing Ole Miss for losing their coach, who is the reason why they're where they are right now. I don't know if they're beating Tulane. I don't know. We'll see, but because they lost their head coach, it should be weighed. Just like Florida State losing their quarterback. Not because the head coach has equal impact, but because the College Football Playoff Committee said that those are the kinds of things that they're going to be weighing. If you're going to say you're going to use those as metrics, then use them as metrics. And as a result of that, I'm dropping Ole Miss to 8 and moving Oklahoma up to 7. Coming in at number 9, BYU. BYU has a better record against Alabama. BYU has a better record than anybody who did not play in the conference championship game. Better strength of schedule, better strength of record, better FPI, better everything. Every available metric shows that BYU showed up to win every week. And they did, except for Texas Tech, who is number 3 in the nation, and no one in front of them other than Oregon and Ohio State, and there was one more, but Ole Miss, because they lost to Georgia. Only those teams have better losses than BYU. BYU should be at number 9, and Alabama should be at 10. BYU and Alabama both should be in the playoffs. Miami should be out. Miami should be out. You did not play well enough to win, to get to the ACC championship game. An ACC that had 5-loss Duke win. That is an embarrassment to college football and an embarrassment to the ACC. Oh, but we got to have an ACC team. And says who? Says who? If the mandate is we got to have the 12 best teams go in and we got to have these automatic bids. I still like the automatic bids, by the way. We'll see how well I like him after these next couple weeks. I'll get into that in a sec. But if you want conference championship games to mean something, you cannot penalize teams for participating in them. BYU and Alabama deserve to be in the playoffs because they went to conference championship games with 2 or fewer losses, and they're Power 4 teams. Both Alabama and BYU should be in. And BYU should be 9, and Alabama should be 10, because Alabama played so much worse than BYU the last couple of weeks. And they lost by the same margin in the conference championship game. 11. JMU, actually, I think, should be in front of 12 Tulane. And then the first teams out would be Miami and Vanderbilt. I wouldn't even put Notre Dame at 15. I'd put Texas at 15. And I'd put Notre Dame at 16. You played really bad this year, Notre Dame, against everyone that mattered. You did not deserve to be in the playoffs this year. Vanderbilt, everyone in your conference just did a little bit more than you. Sorry, that sucks. And then Miami, you didn't play for your conference championship game. Everyone around you did a little bit better than you did. And you didn't play for your conference championship game. Same reasoning as Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt and Miami should not be in the playoffs. And Miami is not. And Texas should not be in front. Okay, I gotta swap Texas and Vanderbilt. Texas should be 14 and Vanderbilt should be 15. Notre Dame 16, because Texas won, and their strength of schedule is tight enough that the head-to-head overcomes that one loss, especially since the other loss out of conference was to Ohio State. Let's break this down once more. 1, Indiana. 2, Georgia. 3, Texas Tech. 4, Ohio State. 5, Oregon. 6, Texas A&M. 7, Oklahoma. 8, Ole Miss. 9, BYU. 10, Alabama. 11, JMU. And 12, Tulane. In the next couple weeks, we're going to see how well these Group of 5 teams do, and I think that it's incredibly inappropriate to be turning our noses up at the Group of 5 teams. Group of 5 teams, you got to play well in order for that to stop happening. We'll see what happens. I think JMU and Tulane are both going to lose these games, but maybe not. Let's start getting some respect for the Group of 5. Win these games, or at least make it tight. And those are what the playoff rankings should be. We'll get some rule changes come January, and hopefully this gets fixed. This has been Newbie Sports.